So this is the Calico community meeting for May 12th, 2021. I'll get us kicked off and talk a little bit about some updates. So big news is that 3.19 was released a couple of weeks ago. I think right at the end of April, which is exciting. That had a bunch of cool stuff in it. Some of the things that we've been talking about in the previous meetings. But the big headlines there are getting VPP data plane tech preview support out, which is very exciting. There's some new documentation there about how to try it out and explore the features. Also a tech preview of basically removing the need for calicoctl to interact with the Calico APIs. It's been a long time coming as well, and is something I'm pretty excited about. I'll be actually doing a quick demo of that later in the meeting.
Hey, Casey?
Yeah?
Did you ask somebody to take notes? Sorry, I was distracted.
I did not. Good call. Would you like to do that for me?
You want me to ask for somebody to take notes for? Sure. Sure, yeah. I'll take notes.
Thank you. Blah, 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 blah. Where was I? Talking about 3.19. Yeah, so there's that calicoctl no longer needed for interacting with the Calico APIs. On the Windows front, we released support for containerd, container runtime on Windows nodes. So that's pretty timely given the deprecation of Docker shim. And then on the eBPF front, I think we did some work on EKS to get eBPF data plan working there, as well as integration with the operator so that it's more easily configurable from there. So there's a new field in the operator API that lets you toggle which data plane you want. And if you're using that, that's the way to turn on eBPF. I think that's everything for 3.19. We are planning a patch release for that, probably at the end of next week, which will have a couple of bug fixes in it. One of them around service account names that was raised to our attention, where if you happen to be launching pods with super long service account names, so like greater than 63 characters, that will fail with Calico because we try to use it as a label. So I've got a fix in the works for that. I think there are a couple other things as well going into that release. And then we're looking forward to 3.20, date TBD still, as well as the final scope for that. But definitely planning to make progress on some of the things we just talked about, so VPP data plane and the calicoctl removal work, and a few other things in the air. I know one of the ones we want to get done is, Brad's here. Brad, the issue you raised about setting network unavailable when Calico node is down or doing a rolling update. So we're looking into that now. Just kind of in the early phases, but definitely want to improve that behavior where right now Kubernetes will continue to schedule pods even when Calico node is being restarted. Yeah, so I think that's it for release updates.
Hey, I had a question. What's the calicoctl removal work for 320?
Yeah, so we it's been a long-standing thing that lots of people want to use kubectl to manipulate all of the Project Calico resources. So this is just work to enable that workflow. It's not really removing calicoctl per se. That'll continue to work as normal. It's more enabling people to use a second workflow that just uses kubectl, so they don't have to download another tool. They'll get, all of the features that kubectl supports, like, I don't know, -- watch and all the other flags and stuff that you can pass to it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'll demo a little bit of that later as well.
Nice.
Casey, sorry, I've got a question related to that actually.
Yeah.
The cases like manipulating IP pools, will that continue to be calicoctl, or will that?
That's also going to be doable with kubectl.
Okay, cool. Right. So I was going to say then that in that interim period, depending on, it looks like it probably won't be long enough for it to be a concern. But I remember when I first encountered Calico that I made the mistake a couple of times of manipulating IP pools using kubectl, because you can, and nothing tells you that it's not the right thing to do. But as it becomes, the use cases for calicoctl become smaller and smaller, it's quite likely that people will start to, coming into this fresh, will start to not even know it's a thing. But it sounds like that's not really an issue anyway, because.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely made some clarifications to the docs recently. The more detailed thing here is that you can use kubectl today. It's just that you're very likely to break something because it bypasses all of our validation and defaulting logic. So what we're really doing here is making sure that even when you use kubectl to manipulate these things, you are getting that validation, you're getting that defaulting, and you're not gonna do something that breaks your cluster. Like, I think, like you were saying, you could, till now, just go in and change, say, the block size or the CIDR of your IP pool, which is not something that calicoctl will let you do because, the code doesn't know how to handle changes like that. But now you'll get that validation and an error returned to you. And the fact that you can do that is really just a side effect of the way that we're using CRDs. When we started using them, they were intended just to be an internal storage mechanism rather than like a user-facing API. But clearly they are accessible to people. I see we've got Nathan, Aloys. Is there anything you guys want to share on VPP?
Sure, thanks, Casey. So yeah, we're super happy to be part of the 3.19 release as tech preview. So now we're working on a few fixes and improvements. One of them is around the current situation in EKS, where we have to use all mode with DPDK, which was due to a limit in the ENA DPDK driver. So the Amazon folks sent us a preview of a patch that enables interrupt mode for that driver. So we hope to include it in the next release. And Nathan is also working on some exciting stuff for packet processing interfaces. Maybe Nathan, you want to talk a bit about it?
Yeah, so the plan is to be able with annotation to expose packet interfaces in containers for application that can, so that would need a modification of the application for consuming it. First goal is to use Mammoth for that, and that would enable faster packet forwarding between the VPP and the pod. We also have using VCL in mind, so exposing directly connect and listen directly in VPP in the pod. So we were doing a few experimentations there and hopefully gaining a few PPS for small packet processing and with dedicated applications. So for these specific applications, that's the thing we'll be looking at in the for the next release. And finally, also a couple bug fixes as always. We are tech preview and we still have a bit of polishing to do.
Yeah, especially around the IPsec. So you may have noticed that for now the non-DPDK manifest for EKS reduces the MTU to 3,500. That's done to work around a bug in IPsec in DPP currently that we're trying to solve. And I think that's it for us.
I think I was asked on my laser session that I did when we imagined that VPP might be out of tech preview. Is that something we're in a position to answer, or is?
That's a good question. It's maybe a bit early to answer that one.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I think that's a totally reasonable answer.
I definitely hope we can get there as soon as possible, but there's a lot of work to do, right?
Yeah. I think I'd agree with that. I think we're trying to chat sometime next week as well to talk about scope for 3.20 and what kind of progress we can get to there. But we definitely want at least a cycle or two of feedback from users and getting more people to play with it before we're ready to make that jump. Great, thanks guys. I think that was it. Eric, you didn't have any operator news for us?
I mean, I can. I had a couple people that I was going to call out in Calico Heroes, and it's for operator work, so I can
go for
that. There were a couple interesting PRs from the community. One from Paul, who added something to our migration logic to ignore Calico components that are being deleted. The ones that we would normally the operator would say, oh, I need to migrate these things. If they're being deleted, then we'll kind of just ignore them, which is probably the intended behavior and it's kind of really the only option. We can't expect to be using those things if they're in the progress of being deleted. So there was a PR put up for that, and that was actually, that was picked into 3.19. So there is an updated operator released with that for 3.19. There's also another PR in progress that it kind of adds something that we were trying to avoid because we don't think it's necessarily best practice for the operator and for just production deployment. But that's adding a adding affinity to Typha. We already had the preferred affinity available, but that, with the preferred affinity, if there weren't enough nodes to satisfy it, then nodes could be, or Typha pods could go to other nodes, and some cases that doesn't work well, especially when you need to have specific designated nodes, perhaps because Typha needs access to some other things that you kind of want it coming from a certain set of nodes. So there's now a required affinity available for Typha. And I'm just going to repeat that I don't recommend the use of that unless you are willing to take responsibility that whatever affinity you put there, you're going to ensure there's plenty of nodes to satisfy that requirement. Because Typha is critical to an installation. So I just want to caution anybody that is considering using that.
Yeah, I guess for most clusters, that's just 3 nodes. It's not until you get to much larger scale that you need to be very careful about that.
I think it's not until you get to a couple hundred that it goes above 3, if I remember right. So yeah, that's all I had for the operator then.
Well, given we're doing Calico Hero stuff, I wanted to give a shout out to Nathan and Aloys and Lance for all of their work getting this tech preview over the line. Lance really put in a lot of effort trying to break this, and Nathan and Alois put in a lot of effort trying to fix it. And I got thrown into the mix, giving lots of annoying little bits of kind of nitty feedback on things. So they were all really great sports about that. And I'm very excited where they managed to get. So thank you guys.
Thanks, Casey.
Yeah, I think we would also extend the thanks to Chris for the help, and then Lance also on our side, because it's not a small thing to try to be the first one to try Calico VP, install it, to do performance benchmark, and so really appreciated the help on that one. And obviously the talk, which was great. It was really nice to see it in action from someone who is not us playing with the CLI and everything. So it was really appreciated.
My pleasure.
So I just had one or two quick updates on issues from last meeting. Before I do this demo, last time we talked about some cryo bugs. Excuse me. There is a fix in the works for that upstream in cryo. I think the PR is still going through a review, but hopefully in the near future, those will be fixed. We also talked about an issue with Calico where it wasn't respecting termination grace period on pods. I think we had to revert that as it had some unintended consequences, but we'll be looking at a more appropriate fix to that in the near future.
Wait, so you're saying we had a fix for
that?
Okay.
We had talked about it last time. Basically, like the way that Felix is deciding whether or not a pod is something it should care about is not including pods that are in their termination grace period. And the fix was in code that was a couple steps removed from Felix, so it's a little bit tricky to change that code and not have some unintended side effects. So we thought we got it right. We merged it. We found some other tests that were failing. I can't remember exactly what they were. But
when did that change go in? Because I remember something that sounds like that, but it was quite a, I mean, in my mind, quite a while ago that was added.
It was a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
Yeah.
It's not what I'm thinking then. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the fix went in just before the last meeting, the last community
okay.
meeting.
All right.
And then it was
No,
reverted a
I'm
week or two
thinking
after.
like 6 months or a year or more ago. Okay.
No, definitely not that. So those are the only issues on my mind at the moment, other than stuff we've already talked about. So why don't I demo this calicoctl thing that I was talking about?
Okay. Stop sharing.
If I can find the right thing. Okay. Can you guys see this terminal now? Get a little bit bigger.
Yep.
Maybe even a tiny bit bigger still would be great.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks.
Cool. So what I've got here is just basic cluster with Calico installed. This is what you'll still get out of the box and what you will have gotten out of the box for previous releases. Since this is a tech preview feature at the moment, we're not turning it on by default, but we expect that in an upcoming release, we will be moving this to GA and turning this on by default so that it becomes pretty seamless. So as an example of what I'm talking about here, if you do something like calicoctl, get GNP for global network policies, that will, I mean, I don't have any on this cluster right now, but you can see that it's showing me that there are none. If I try to run the same thing with kubectl to get global network policies, it's going to tell me there is no such thing as a GNP. Because there isn't. There is a CRD for this, which is what we use to back this API, but it's not validated. Like I was saying before, there's no defaulting on it. And the schema is slightly different than the one that users expect in this project calico.org v3. So if you look at something like IP pools, like you were saying earlier, Chris, you'll see it's actually in this different API group, crd.projectcalico.org, which is meant to be an internal, kind of private API. And so what we've done here is introduced this companion API server that's pretty easy to install. It runs as another pod. The next steps here just generate some certificates and allow the main API server to authenticate with ours. You can see I'm passing the service name there as a SAN. And I'm just telling the API server about this. So these right now are manual just because we're in tech preview, but it'll be automatically done in the next iteration of this. And once you've got that installed, you'll see it runs this guy. And you'll see that new, it's a bit hard to see here, but a bunch of new APIs become available to you, all in this projectcalico.org API group. So now if you do something like kubectl get GNP, it's going to tell you that the API does exist. And again, of course, I don't have any of them, but if I go and edit IP pools, I'm now getting this project calico.org v3 IP pool, which is the correct API, and it will do stuff like give me validation saying this field cannot be modified and so on, which is really what we want out of this. If you had gone and tried to do this on the CRD API, it would not have worked prior to this. Similarly, if you go into any of our docs, you'll see in our examples, we're using calicoctl for all of these things, but I should now be able to take this exact resource and even though this is a Project Calico API, it will now be created with kubectl, which is nice. And things like kubectl edit, oops, what am I doing? Yeah, kubectl edit will work. All of your normal kubectl commands and stuff you expect. There's not a whole lot to show here other than the install process and that you can now use kubectl for all of these things. This is also nice because it's not just kubectl. You get like integration with anything that is made to interact with the Kubernetes API. So if you've got like a CI/CD system or GitOps integration or something like that, that is, provisioning resources through the Kubernetes API, that will all work now just using like the real YAML schemas and stuff listed out in the docs for all of these resources. So there are some calicoctl commands that we haven't migrated to this yet. So more of the things like all of the data store migration logic is still built into calicoctl. All of the node and BGP status and stuff is still built into calicoctl, but all of the like create, replace, get, delete, normal CRUD operations are usable through kubectl. I think that's all I really had to share on that. Thoughts or questions?
I might have imagined it, but did when you had no global network policy and you ran calicoctl, didn't it return the resource version, whereas kubectl didn't? Which I might have imagined that, but I was just trying to get my head around why that would be.
Let me scroll back. Yeah, it did return a resource version, and I have no clue why that would be.
Good. I bet you're pleased that I pointed it out.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. It's probably some quirk of calicoctl, but something I will probably try to go figure out after this because that's very curious.
Yeah, let me know the outcome.
But like that's another one of the benefits of this is that you're not going to get all of those quirks. That
and at the risk of being glib, it's one less thing to have to troubleshoot. Like one less binary that can that could be adding entropy to your system.
Yeah, sort of. I think it's more just that the API expects more or behaves more consistently with how the other Kubernetes APIs work. So there should be fewer surprises. This is like just from seeing new people pick up Calico, this is what the way they expect it to behave, and this is the way they try to use it. And so we wanted to make sure that that workflow worked. It's a lot easier to make it work the way people expect than to try and change people's expectations.
No concern about having mismatch calicoctl either now.
Yeah, exactly. All kinds of problems will go away.
Does this help with kind of GitOps workflow as well? Like if you're
Yes, that is one of the other use cases that people were bringing up when we were talking about this. They had whatever tools that expect you to put Kubernetes YAMLs in there, and they will apply them. But those sorts of tools don't know how to work with calicoctl, and so all of these Calico YAMLs were not working in their GitOps workflow. Like if you wanted to have a Calico network policy or something, or an IP pool or BGP configuration in your GitOps workflow, it just wouldn't work. But with this, it will behave just the same as if you're using a deployment or service or something like that. Any other questions on this or anything in general? If not, then we'll end it a little bit early. Thanks everybody for coming. We'll do this again in 2nd of June 9th, it looks like. So next time. Catch y'all later.
Thanks, Casey.
Thanks.
Everybody.
Tim.